And welcome back. This is From the Ground Up. I'm Carmen Milagro. For those of you that don't know me, I am the founder at Divina Skincare and Botanicals. I'm also the author of Truths About Hemp CBD, a guidebook for curious folks, as well as a certified CBD educator and your host for the show. So, on the show, we ask the question, is health really the key to your wealth? But we look at it from various angles because we have various guests who have various ideas and perspectives, which is what I love. So I'm really happy to share that with you. We often say that successful transformation comes from doing the work and building or rebuilding your process. It starts with the truth from the inside out and from the ground up, hence the name of the show. I get to talk to, tech gurus, industry leaders, artists, musicians, investors, just all kinds of people from all walks of life. And we ask them these questions, what are their life strategies? What are their business strategies? What's their health and wellness strategies? Because in my opinion, all of this ties into us living the most successful way that we can. And it's all tied together because if you're not healthy, then how are you going to run your business? How are you going to achieve your goals? But everyone has a different viewpoint. Now, today's guest is many things to many people, including a dear friend to me. But I'm going to read you here his bio and his background, which is just a fraction of what he's actually done and is doing. But he's a serial tech entrepreneur. He's an educator. He's a philanthropist, investor, advisor, mentor, and a passionate evangelist for the global Latinx tech community. He recently attended the World Economic Forum 2020 in Davos as a delegate for the first U.S. Hispanic delegation led by the We Are All Human Foundation, and he's also a co-author of Hispanic Stars Rising, which was published in 2020. In addition, he's also the founder of Latinx Startup Alliance, whose mission is to empower Latino tech founders around the globe. He was also co-founder of Avion, the first pre-accelerator supporting Latina tech founders. He's appeared on Latin Nation, Top 20 Latino Tech Leaders, Nissan Latino, NASDAQ Trade Talks, Hispanicize, and many other tech conferences. He's been featured in multiple articles. He's been a capital advisor for multiple cohorts of the Stanford Latino Entrepreneur Initiative. And like I said, this is merely the tip of the iceberg. So I am going to bring on my guest for today, Mr. Jesse Martinez. Hi, Jesse. I'm out of breath with that intro.
Me too. I was like, I might have to take a coffee break after that.
I know I need some tea. I need some water. How are you?
Kind of warm intro, and I appreciate you having me on today. And so, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm out of breath, so I'm going to let you talk. Tell us a little bit, for our audience, Jesse, there are a lot of people in tech. I'm surrounded by an incredible network of people and in our audience and viewers and new people that are going to be watching this across, the channels. So if you don't mind, where are you located these days, and tell us a little bit about yourself. Let's start with this. What was 15-year-old Jesse like?
Ooh, that's a great question. So 15-year-old Jesse was Sam Houston High School, Houston, Texas, son of immigrant parents from Mexico. And I was probably taking vocational drafting. And so vocational drafting I took for 3 years. And so that was a pivotal point in my career path. And so I took that as a 2-hour course,
right,
and which led to state championships, and so it was very rewarding, and I enjoyed it very much. And I was the young guy carrying a briefcase with all my drafting equipment, and so that was me in high school.
Yeah. And this was in Houston, right?
correct, in
And
Houston.
it's kind of full. I jump ahead a little bit. It's kind of full circle because aren't you back in Houston?
I am making my way back. And so one of the things that we've done and well, in my next chapter of life, as well as the work that we do, is we've decided to pick up the work that we've been doing as Latinx Startup Alliance and making Houston our new headquarters. It's been a little delayed, given COVID and the pandemic.
Of course.
But I met an amazing team in 2019, and so there was a delegation from Houston touring the valley, and I met them at the Salesforce Tower, and I was informed about the commitment that Houston was making to tech, and that the mayor, corporates, and everyone across the board has bought in. They know that they're late to the game,
Right.
given that they've been so focused on oil, gas, and energy, but they were finally making that commitment, and that I should be a part of it.
Well, native son and all, right?
I know. And I was like, okay, well, is this real? Because I've been waiting for this moment for a long time. And I
I
actually
bet.
picked up on it. And for people listening to the audience, I've been in San Francisco, so that's where I am right now since '97. So that's where my journey starts with respect to tech, as I call
Right.
it.
Oh,
And so excited. Uh, we're going to be hosted and headquartered at the Ion, which is a new innovation hub, almost 300,000 square feet in the museum district, and it's 6 stories. You have Microsoft, Chevron Technology Ventures. You have Common Desk, which is co-working space, which is got acquired by WeWork. And
okay.
we have a number of other parties that will be there as well. Just a brand new Makers Lab got rolled out last week, I believe. And so when you think about where do people come together, right? And Houston's the 4th largest city. It's
Yeah.
already diverse, incredible people,
Yeah.
incredible events, and so looking forward to being part of that emerging ecosystem
Well, I know where I'm headed.
and contributing, where I can and where we can,
Right.
right? And so in addition to Houston, also is Texas. And so how do we help support that next generation of Latinx founders from Houston in the state of Texas?
Right.
And
That's incredible. Well, I'm not surprised, of course. I just didn't know the details. I knew you were doing this. And I miss our lunches. We used to catch each other up on everything, which it seems like we're always doing at least 30 different projects. So it's fun to do this way. So thank you for sharing that.
yeah, no, thanks for the question. And then, of course, my mom's happy. So my mom's in Houston.
Yeah, of
I made
course.
a commitment in 2019 to spend more time with her, and so I'll get to do that as well.
Yeah.
And so probably looking at later this month, I'm making that journey to Houston, and then I'll go back and forth, but I'll spend the majority of my time in Houston,
Yeah.
building the new entity, and then seeing how we help support the ecosystem.
Yeah, that's so amazing. I mean, I can only assume that you have plans maybe to go back to your old high school, and do that sort of tour thing, which I think is so important when we
Mhm.
do reach out and reach back, because I think there's a lot of focus sometimes on going forward.
Right.
But the way that I live my life and what I love to do is make sure that someone requests, hey, can you come talk to the kids or get on Zoom? That's how we do things these days.
I know.
It's so important to, it sounds so cliche, right? But where did we come from?
Mhm.
How come sometimes you don't see people going back?
Mhm.
And I don't mean backwards. I mean just going back and bringing some of the new, the next generation, like you said, bringing them up to where we are and showing them. Sometimes it's just by being who you are, and they find you because, of course, kids can find anyone they want to find
Right.
in this new world. And so I think that's really incredible. And again, you're a native son. You're a superstar.
Well, thank you for that. Yeah, there's a lot of work to do as well,
Yeah.
but with the support of the city of Houston and our strategic partner, the ION, and all the other partners. It's all about being able to create that collaborative ecosystem, which we know much about here in the Bay Area, right? And so how do we help replicate that least that spirit, right? That spirit, that essence.
Yeah, of
So
course.
that's what I've seen so far.
Absolutely. Um, w- when you mentioned, Jesse with his briefcase and his,
Yeah, forgot about that.
but how, I mean, that seems like that was the start of your path, but what would you say was like that critical, that moment of this is it. This is what I want to do with the rest of my life. Or have there been several?
Well, I think there's been several, just depending on your phase, right, of your career. But, I would say the last 10 years, well, I've been here since 97. So that was really the pivotal point in my life with
Mhm.
respect to all the work that I've been doing. And so, going from Houston to San Francisco in 97, right? And joining the startup, being employee 27, being funded by Sequoia Capital, and then being one of two pioneers in the web hosting services space. So this is before Rackspace, AWS, and others. And we had Yahoo, Netscape, and some other marquee brands on board. We were providing the server space, the bandwidth, the support to keep those servers up and running 24/7.
Wow.
And so, employee 27, the world was my prospecting space, and so I got to work with some amazing companies. In the old days we had SGI, but USA Today, and then I don't know if everyone remembers Ask Jeeves. I took care of them when they had two servers, and so that journey from two servers to IPO, and so just some amazing friendships, mentors, and just a lot of learning right at a young age.
Yeah, I was going to say that's quite young. What was the landscape? You're in it. You're in sort of the birthplace of all of this at
Right.
a very young age. And did you ever feel, and this is interesting because I think I was with you and Angel at a Netflix event.
Right.
And it was the first time where we're in the audience, we're watching this audience, this panel talk about, and I remember turning, I don't remember, I think it might have been, I turned to you because the topic was imposter syndrome, and I'm like, what is that? I had no idea what that was, and I'm not trying to be a jerk. I have never experienced that, but when I look back, maybe I should have.
Right.
It's a very real thing. And so, I was fascinated by that part of that topic. Like that really stuck with me. And so I do think about things in a different way. You're 27, you're super young, you're in this hub, Silicon Valley, before it was what it is now.
Right.
Did you have moments like that where did you have other people that look like us around you? Did that affect you in some way? Did you notice?
Yeah. Great questions. I did notice. I didn't really think about it much
Yeah.
because I was just in the moment,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then I was also on a fast track. So when we think about a company being a rocket ship,
Yeah.
I was on a rocket ship, and so you just don't have time to think about those things. And so it wasn't really until 2010, right? So if we fast forward 2010, looking to do my second startup, and it was the early days of community-based organizations providing support for their founders. So early days of Black founders, Jewish founders, and others.
Mhm.
And so as a Latino in tech, as a founder, I did some Google searches like, okay, what resources are available for us?
Right.
And I didn't find anything. And so that became the beginning of my nonprofit Latinx Startup Alliance in 2011. So we started out as a meetup group with 6 people in the Mission District of San Francisco. And so fast forward, we've grown organically. Again, our mission is to empower Latino tech founders, and we're over 1,000 plus and supporting founders from around the world. And before pandemic, right, we had a lot of founders coming to the Bay Area,
Right.
but now with the distribution of opportunities and support and resources, now we have founders that are emerging from different cities across the U.S., which is really awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
It
So
is.
and capital, and so we've seen, as many people leave the Bay Area.
Yes.
And so now it's a matter of helping to grow those new and emerging ecosystems
Right.
across the
And
world.
that is so important. Again, going back to that earlier part of our conversation is reaching back and helping and bringing others, from our community along with us. Because for me, I do feel that when you're one of the first people opening up a door, it is your responsibility to some degree, but at least hold the door open. I'm not saying do the work for someone, and I'm not saying, give out. I'm not talking about handouts, but I do think that at least by keeping the door open, that allows others to come forward, whether we're talking about the Latino community or women or whatever it is. I just feel like there's the analogy I always use when I'm talking to young people is you do know when someone is their character. You have an insight into someone's character when you are walking into a store and they hold the door open for you.
Right.
It's a very simple act of generosity, kindness. Some people don't even think about it, but it is an insight into their character. So I look at, opening the doors or creating opportunities as the same way. Who do I want to work with? Who do I want to emulate? Who do I want to, aspire to be like? And, you're one of those people from the get-go when I first met you. That's what you've talked about. All of this, everything that you do is based on helping others. And I think that's kind of a superhero power, if you ask me.
Thank you. I mean, I've been very blessed and fortunate along the way. And so how do I help open more doors, right, for others across the board? And, my lane has been focused on, the U.S. Latino community and, what can we do and, better supporting our tech founders and others. And, it starts with even just sharing basic information, right? And so how do you provide access and awareness to information
Exactly.
to those resources?
Exactly. You gave me 6 wins before we even started the interview. I can't wait to dive in.
Yeah. But just going quickly back to your question about imposter syndrome, I think that topic, from my perspective, it's a difference in generation.
Mm-hmm.
Like that didn't come up when I was younger.
Yeah.
It was just not a word that we heard of and that was discussed. And so I think it's that next generation, and I'm not sure where it started.
Yeah, I'm not either.
And so, but yeah, that'd be interesting to do some history one-on-one.
Yeah, and to blow it up, to get rid of that. That's part of what I do, or my small way with confidence strategies and working with Latino entrepreneurs and young Latino, the communities that ask me to just coach or to mentor or to just do a presentation. That is one of the things that I talk about now, which I had never talked about before because I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
So it is fascinating, and I too, I'm really curious as to where did that come into play.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's very prevalent in tech.
Yeah,
it's a younger generation, and so
yeah,
and again, we have this new generation of Latinos or diverse individuals, right, in tech.
yeah.
And when you're not seeing as many as you, then there's some question that starts to form.
Sure. Well, and that leads me to this, this next question, really, because there's lots of people talking about inclusivity and diversity, and there's lots of conversations about all of this, not just for Latinos, right? But what does that really mean to you, Jesse? When you hear, the words like inclusivity and diversity, what does it mean to you? And do you think it's really possible, like truly possible?
I mean, it is possible, and it is taking place in some places. I think you have to look at who's saying it, how they're saying it, and then are they delivering through actions? Right. And so it's those actions that are going to really provide the proof.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other side, it's like, are we holding those accountable as well?
Right.
And so that's the big question, right? That, now that we've gone through this unfortunate pandemic, the death of George Floyd, Black Lives Matter, there's been a lot of promises, a lot of commitments. Some have come through, others yet to be determined. And so what happens as we come out of this pandemic?
Right. Well, the proof is in the pudding, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And so now
we're in the tamal. The proof
Tamal. I like that.
I like that. I was going to say, I like that. We might have to get a baseball cap like the one I like the one you have, but we might have to get one that says the proof is in the tamal.
Let's do that. Okay. Done right here. In trouble. These conversations, and all of a sudden, it's like, oh, we have a new project.
Right?
Yeah.
Blame Carm. Blame Carm.
Starts. Yeah, I got 2 new projects in December because of a call that I hosted. So it's like, okay, exciting, but
they're gonna be like, stop doing these interviews, Jesse. Just stop.
Add more to the plate. But no, I think this one touches on what you were asking about with respect to, numbers and, what are we doing, right? And so we're exploring a new movement around data, right? Data around Latinos and the industries and the sectors that we're in.
Right.
And why we have, we already know that we have low representation, right? We started talking about tech, venture, right? Capital, Hollywood, and then also just the voting numbers.
Right.
And so where do we sit today? Where do we need to be? Right. I think that's been the biggest challenge or question is that where do we need to be?
Right. Because it's unknown territory. It's uncharted. So how do you know?
Yeah. And so to be continued, but for us, it's putting that stake in the ground and saying, okay, we'll be 22% of the population soon, right? Right now we're at 19. And so let's do the 22% movement.
There you go.
And hold people accountable, right? Well, each other, right?
Right.
Capture that data,
right?
Measure that data, and just do it on a yearly basis. And for those that are making commitments, then we can hold them accountable on those commitments.
Yeah.
We also offer solutions, right? So it's not
of course
we need. It's like, okay, how do we work together to really improve and move these numbers?
And I think you just touched on something that is so basic in the sense of, I see it as there's accountability, but also we have to support each other first, right? Our own community, elevating each other, supporting each other, and then you can hold each other accountable and others. But what I like about what you said is this whole idea of, I was taught early on by one of my former bosses. I was just a kid, I was 20, and she was one of the best mentors and bosses that I ever worked for, ever. And she taught me something that was so basic and so simple. She said, I've hired you to do a job. I trust that you know how to do it. I'm not a micromanager. I also know that you're not going to have all the answers. So when you come up on a challenge, this is how we're going to do this. This is how I'm going to help support you and hold you accountable. You inform me of what the challenge is, which is what we were just talking about. You come up with 3 scenarios of what you would like to do, what you think the solutions are. But if you're stuck, then I'll tell you, I like option A. I'll work with you on this, or let's flush this out and evolve it. You're on the right track, but I didn't have the experience. She did, clearly. And so that's how she taught me really how to approach everything that I do. And it is such a basic, it's pretty simplified, but I think it's really effective. And I think that's what you just said really triggered that memory for me of that's how you do it.
Yeah. And I think, we've done a lot of talking over the years, and, same thing around board members, right? The diversity around board members, and how many are Latinos, how many are Latinas, and so. But what is our goal? And so we need to set a certain goal, in our opinions, right? And so that we have something to attain for,
right?
And not just say we need it, but here's where we need to be, or here's where we want to be.
And how are we going to get there? Let's shift the conversation from just talking about it. It is important, of course, because that is part of the education of it, is sharing the information and the knowledge. But even this, what you and I are doing now, there's a whole group of people that are going to see this that weren't aware of this. And they wouldn't ever be
Yeah.
So that's part of the education, in tech and all of these platforms that we're going to be on. And I think that's why the conversations are still so important. But if you don't follow up with actions or implementation, then it's just talk.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's a lot that, for a lot of the work that we've done over the years, as we reflect on the last 10, is just delivering through actions and just doing our work. And so, moving forward, we need to do a little bit better of telling our story to others. So, we have the success stories, et cetera, but we need to do a better job of telling the stories and sharing those success stories with others so that they know.
Exactly. And talking about sharing, what would be, just kind of shifting gears, but still, in this whole vein, what would you say to an upcoming young tech enthusiast, right?
Mhm.
And they're about to have they're about to launch their first startup. They've got this great idea. What's the number one thing that you would want them to know before they really get going? Like, what's the advice that Mr. Jesse Martinez is going to impart on this young person?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, the biggest thing is being able to find your tribe, right? Being able to find like others, who's in that ecosystem, right? Who are the partners? Who are the mentors? Who are the advisors? Who are the investors in that space? So that you're fully engaged, right? And you're able to be part of that deep dive in the work that you're doing.
Right.
And so it exists. You have to find them,
Yeah.
right? And then just being able
Kissing
to
a lot of frogs, Jesse. It's kissing a lot of frogs.
being able to leverage, that tribe, that group, whatever you want to call them,
Yeah, that's
and and so that you're in it, you're living it firsthand, right, every day.
yeah, yeah, that's perfect. Thank you. Um, Now we're going to get into more of like, how does Jesse work? I mean, I don't think I know anyone else who has so many balls up in the air at the same time. And yet, to me, from the outside, you always look super calm and cool and collected and never stressed. I swear I've never seen you act or look stressed. So I'm wondering, is there a strategy that you've developed behind, keeping your sanity, keeping your work-life balance? And that would be maybe another tip that you would give to someone who's starting out in tech or their entrepreneurial journey.
Right. Well, I'm the first one to admit that I'm guilty about the work-life balance, just because when you're enjoying what you do, it doesn't feel like work.
Right.
So one, it's good. Two, it's bad. Then when do you cut it off?
I know.
And so that's the challenge that I faced over the years, is like, when do you cut it off? When is too much too much? And so that I'm still working on.
Yeah.
So,
Work in progress. I know, because I've gotten emails from you when I should have been, asleep too, but that's not the point. But I've gotten emails from you and I'm just like, oh my God, he's still up.
yeah, well, so pandemic it gave me all this time to think about all these things and strategy and what we want to do.
Yeah.
And so, not
Well,
how I want to spend my time, indoors and hibernating.
yeah.
But it certainly allowed me time to think and focus
Yeah.
and really think about that next chapter.
Absolutely. And two things on that. I think that's the difference between successful people, joyful people even, is you take what the situation is at hand and you're not a victim of it.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying that it's I mean, sometimes you can't do it on your own, but it is a mindset where, you're handed this ton of rocks. And what are you going to do with it? I mean, you can either be burdened by it or you can figure out a way, that entrepreneurial mindset, the attitude, you can figure out a way to make pretty much anything work, I think.
Yep.
And you reach out, like you said, to your tribe, or you just develop coping skills, or you learn to meditate, or you do certain things, you figure out a way.
Right.
A lot of times I think we're told that we can do things, but you still have to figure it out. What works for you,
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
know?
We're all different. And so
Yeah.
the right thing for you. And, you may venture off a little bit, but how do you come back to your core, right?
Right. And then the other thing too, and you and I were briefly touched on this before we started the interview, is you said it gave you an opportunity to really think about what you're doing next. And it sounds like this is your legacy thought process. And can you just sort of share with us a little bit of what it was like behind closed doors, when you're on your own, and what are the things that really started coming to the forefront for you when you had the time to think about this?
Yes, I look at it in buckets, right? So LSA, Jesse, health and wellness, and then family, right? And then, working on each of those, and what does that look like? Short term, long term. The legacy piece is important because who is that next generation that's going to carry the torch and do the work that we've been doing for the past 10 years as LSA, and then thinking about Houston, and then thinking about what are the challenges that we need to address and the new work that we want to do.
Right.
And so, so one of the things that we've done over the past few years is also co-founded and co-created some new communities in tech. And so we have Latinos in AI, cybersecurity, dreamers in tech. So we have about 10.
Yeah, I know. You're slacker. You're
So,
slacker, Jesse.
yeah, and so those communities, right, will now be incorporated under one umbrella, which will be LSA Global.
Right.
LSA Global will have the foundation of tech entrepreneurship. And then, depending if you're in tech, new to tech, you have a home, right? You have a community, you have a tribe that you can turn to.
Right.
And then, guess what? If you have an idea, then you have this whole set of tools and resources, people, infrastructure to support you on that journey. And so, for us that we're a little biased on entrepreneurship, it's like, how do we get more Latinos right into entrepreneurship, and then especially into tech entrepreneurship, so that they can build companies. Hopefully they're successful, depending on how they define that as well.
Right.
And
Thank,
and
thank
and
you for that.
yeah, and then the underline is just on that thesis of wealth and prosperity.
Right. Right. That's awesome. And it's a business plan, bottom
Yeah.
line,
Hmm.
right? I mean, again, I think whether you're in business working for someone else or you are an entrepreneur, it really does boil down to some very basic, simple action steps. And what's one of the first things that, an entrepreneur is taught is, what's your business plan? Write your business plan.
Hmm.
The question that's asked, what's your business plan?
Yeah, nothing's changed on that.
Right. So your business plan, your life plan, your wellness plan, it is about planning and being able to adapt and to change, right? I mean, because what's that joke? The best laid plans, something, something. God has other plans for the plan, or something like that. I can't tell jokes to save my life, but yeah, I mean, but you still have to have some sort of roadmap so that you know why you're making decisions and where you're going to turn when you thought you were going to turn right, but now you're going to have to go left and zig this way. And
Mhm.
you still have to have an idea
You
so
do.
that you know where you're headed and why you're headed there.
Mhm.
Right. And
Yeah.
it's not that complicated when you break it down like that.
No, but people do need guidance and coaching, and if they
Absolutely.
haven't done it before, right? And that's where the support comes in.
Exactly. And the tribe, right? I mean, it took me a while, for example, to find the right coach who's done something similar in
Mhm.
the space that I'm in. And I think that is something that I've seen a lot that kind of is worrisome to me, is there's a million coaches out there, and not everyone goes through that. You're interviewing the coach just as much as they want to see if you want to be, if they want you as a client.
Mhm.
And I think that's something, in the youth groups that I talk to, that's one of the things that I talk about. You also want to align yourself, like you said, with your tribe. You want to align yourself with the right coach.
Mhm.
Do they get you? Do they understand what your vision is? Have they done something in that space?
Yep.
Finding a coach just for the sake of finding a coach, or being, finding a mentor, just, it's great. I mean, of course, in some other areas, but I think there's a lot of people out there that you should be wary of.
Yes, I agree. And so, yeah, and that goes back to doing your homework, doing your research, right, doing your due diligence, and then also following your intuition as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, of course.
Mhm.
And know that you are going to make mistakes.
Mhm.
In life and entrepreneurship, same thing.
Yep, that's all part of the journey.
Same.
And fortunately, unfortunately, that's where you learn the most.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They're really not failures, they're lessons if
Mhm.
you choose to look at things that way, right?
Yep.
Jesse, I know that you have a super busy schedule. So, what I thought we would do for just the last 5 minutes, I do what sort of this rapid fire, get to know you a little bit deeper, but you can always, it's only, you know, maybe 3, 4, maybe 5 questions.
Mhm.
Um, and you can always pass. That's always an option.
Okay.
But I thought we would sort of end our segment, our conversation with that, because sometimes it's really fun and you learn something new about, even when you've known each other.
I know.
Um, I think we'll start with, what's your favorite snack?
Popcorn.
Really, that is not at all what I am so surprised.
Yeah. Since I was a little kid.
Oh,
Yeah. I
good
used
to
to,
know.
I used to be able to eat a whole tub. Tubs. The movies, yeah.
All right, good to know. Next time I host a dinner party, I will have some popcorn for you.
Baby snack. And then followed as chocolate.
Ooh, okay, now we're talking.
The newer one. Yeah.
Okay. What brings you the greatest joy?
Ooh. Seeing others succeed.
Oh, that's beautiful. I'm not surprised by that one, Jesse. Um, oh, okay. I like this one because we've already, if you could go back as yourself right now to 15-year-old Jesse, what is the number one piece of advice that you would give 15-year-old Jesse?
I think the thing that comes to mind for me is pursue those new opportunities.
Oh, okay.
And some of us may relate to this or not, but because you're in your community, you're in your local environment, sometimes you may not embark on a new journey
Right.
given the circumstances or the conditions.
Sure, sure.
And so, whether good or bad, right? It's like, how do you move beyond that,
Yeah,
right? And find a way to make something happen versus adapting, right? Because I think we're used to adapting and also relying on the influence of others at a young age.
yeah,
And it takes a lot for someone in the community, right, to have that aha moment
right.
and embark on that journey on their own.
I like that. I like that a lot. That's a good one. And let's do a final one. Let's say all your projects are they're just running. You've got people in the right place. They understand your vision. You now have all the free time in the world. What's your dream vacation?
Dream vacation is to travel around the world. And so being able to make a multi location
Uh-huh.
trip
Okay.
with a strong focus on those environments that are endangered,
Uh-huh.
right? And so when we think about what's happening in our world and due to climate change, et cetera,
Right.
there are some of those things that I want to see firsthand
Yeah.
before they disappear or something
Right.
happens.
Right. That's a good, that sounds like another goal.
It is. It is. And so, which has been, I guess, emphasized and has become more relevant given COVID and then also everything that's happening with our climate.
Right. Absolutely. There's a lot of change. Some
Hmm.
good. It's not all bad,
Right.
but it's a lot of change happening. Jesse, I almost forgot to mention that you yourself are also a host. You have your own show. Would you like to share a little bit about that before you let us go? And then if someone wants to reach you and connect with you, and how do they do that?
Yeah. So thank you for that. So I do host a weekly show. It's a live Zoom LinkedIn series called Hispanic Stars in Tech. And this is our third year that we're starting. So
3 years already? Oh my
yes,
God.
yeah. It started because of pandemic. It's like, okay, well, how do we connect people? How do we talk to people? How do we share tools and resources?
I remember when you first started it.
Yeah, so that was 2020. And so been very rewarding. We've connected a lot of people. And so thank you to, as you know, right, Claudia from We're All Human and Hispanic Art to helping us support this show. So it'll continue. So looking to fill out the year. And so it's every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Pacific. And so we've started off with a great group of guests already. And so, yeah, join us if you can.
I can't. Yeah, I do try. I do, even if I can't during the live. I try to go back and because you have amazing guests and it is educational. I for me I definitely need as much education in the tech aspect of things as possible. So
Right.
I am grateful for the work you do there as well, and I'm so grateful and honored that you are on this show
Well, thank you.
and that you're in my life and that you're my friend. Thank you.
Likewise. And yeah, feel free to reach out. You can find me on LinkedIn, Jesse Martinez. And then my address is Jesse Martinez1. You
Okay.
can't find me. So,
Great. And we'll put that in the, as everyone knows, we love it when you engage and you like and you comment, and we will put this in the posts on YouTube, on millionaireflix.com, all of that. You'll be able to just really, part of my goal is to connect people, right, with different
yeah.
new groups, because a lot of us travel in different groups, not just one, which is what you were talking about. I was reflecting on, was I like this when I was young? Did I go out of my sphere? And I definitely did.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've always been sort of bridging, people and connecting and all of that. So that's the other purpose for this show, is to share different ideas, but also illuminate and connect.
Right.
And, it's these conversations that are so important, that lead to action, that lead to change.
Agreed. Agreed. And it's going beyond your local ecosystems, right?
Mhm.
To really find others,
Exactly.
and meet them and learn from them and find areas of opportunity where you can collaborate.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And Jesse, before I let you go, is there anything else that you would like, our viewers and anyone watching in the future, what final words of wisdom do you have for them?
Thank you. I think the simple one is just show up. As I tell my students and my entrepreneurs, is that first step is always showing up and being part of the event, whatever it may be,
Yeah,
right? Being present,
yeah,
but showing up.
that's
So a lot of people do want to help and support, but it doesn't start until someone shows up.
that's right. And show up as yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, that's the beauty of what you and I have talked about, and what I would like to see in everything is show up as yourself, show up in numbers,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how change happens.
Agreed. Yeah, we have to do it.
Thank you, Jesse. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, no, thank you.
I hope you had as much fun as I did.
There's so much to talk about.
I know. I know. We could probably go on for a lot longer, but we'll probably just let it slide at this one. But maybe you'll come back another time.
I will.
Okay.
Yeah. Good line with you. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Ciao.
Ciao. And that's it for another episode of From the Ground Up. Thank you all so much. Like I said, we will have Jesse's contact information in the comments below. You can contact him, you can reach out. And these are the opportunities that from the ground up that's one of the goals, is connecting people to other like-minded people and helping you build your tribe and sort of being able to have these discussions and learn what other people do that helps them thrive in the life that they've chosen to live. So, it's one of the most amazing things that I get to do personally. And I'm so grateful. Thank you again to Jesse Martinez. Thank you for your insights. And, it's always a pleasure talking to you, because I always learn so much, and we laugh and I get to giggle and all that. But, and I do really have to say, I really do miss our lunches with Ray and Anges. So at some point, hopefully we'll get back on track with that. I know you're traveling back and forth, but thank you, everyone. Transformational success starts from finding the truth, your truth, building from the ground up, from the inside out, taking care of yourselves, and that on that journey, so that you are healthy and you are thriving and you are successful, whatever that means to you. Until next time, I'm Carmen Milagro, and this has been From the Ground Up. Thanks, everyone. See you.